who are not on Clubhouse or who are on Android, since Clubhouse is iPhone only, have been asking for ways to get in. So for one of the first times ever, we're actually going to be streaming this on YouTube as well. It's not as large as one of your pay-per-views, but we are reaching a fairly large live audience right now, right here.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Sriram. This is just awesome. We're really excited to get going and have the conversation, see where you take us.
Awesome. Yeah, Sriram, we should kick it off.
All right. I think it's time to hit our music.
Live from San Francisco and here on Clubhouse, it's The Good Time Show, bringing you today in technology. And now your hosts, Arti and Sriram.
Woohoo!
Hey folks, welcome. Welcome to today's show of Good Time. I'm Arti and this is Sriram. And both Sriram and I, with our usual motley crew of people, we do this show pretty much every night. And we typically tend to do this for an hour each night. And we cover mostly technology and also like storytelling, movies, TV shows, current culture, that kind of thing. And for folks who are joining us for the first ever time, welcome. For folks who've been with us for the last couple of months since we started this show, thank you for making this all happen. We've had some really phenomenal guests come on the show. I think a few weeks ago we had Elon Musk come in and we had like hundreds of thousands of followers just like show up and just take down Clubhouse with it. And then we had Mark Zuckerberg, and we've just had some like really prolific guests. And it started out as like a total hobby project for me and Sriram, and this has now basically become our like second full-time job. So thank you, and keep all the comments coming. We get hundreds of comments on Instagram and Twitter every single day, and we try and read every one of them and respond to most of them. Keep them coming. Any feedback, suggestions, please bring it our way. And we'll keep bringing in really interesting guests like the ones we have today. With that, Sriram, over to you.
Wow. Okay. So I think this today is something I've probably been looking forward to since I was 10 years old. The WWE needs no introduction. They are probably one of the most popular entertainment and media brands out there. They have the longest running episodic TV show out there. They are the largest social and digital media property out there. But I don't think that all really captures the impact that they have on people's lives. I think more than any other form of entertainment, the WWE has been closest to my heart. They made me laugh, they made me cry. They've been a part of so many amazing memories. So I know we don't, this kind of a different show for us because we usually have people from the world of technology. But I think the WWE and the people we have today are some of the most interesting and innovative leaders in the world of entertainment and technology, and we're going to get to that. But given the two people we have today, I have to make sure I do this right. And Arti mentioned Elon, Arti mentioned Zuckerberg. We had them all on the show, but they were just the preview show, right? They were not the main event, right? So for tonight's main event, introducing first. I'm never gonna be Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former WWE Women's Champion, former Rock Commissioner and member of the Authority, and most importantly, Chief Brand Officer of the WWE, Stephanie McMahon.
And now, introduction, Sriram.
And now, her partner. I think I'm supposed to say this is, Executive Vice President Paul Levesque. But I think what I really want to say is introducing 5-time Intercontinental Champion, 3-time World Tag Team Champion, 14-time World Champion, the Cerebral Assassin, the King of Kings, the Game, Triple H.
I'm telling you. The next superstar spectacle, I'm calling you as the ring announcer.
And sound effects.
Yes.
You have no idea how many times he made us practice that with Steven. That was just, this is like the 10th time we are doing this today.
And let me just also say that, you know, Elon Musk doesn't have Motorhead playing him, right?
That's
like,
true.
come on.
That's true.
It's true. That's awesome.
Elon has like
folks.
no good entrance, you know. But I want to get to Elon and you, Paul, in just a bit. First of all, you know, I would say, you know, thank you so much for coming on the show. We are really excited, and now, by the way, I'm already seeing tweets blow up. And we're going to cover a lot. We're going to talk about your story. We're going to talk about, you know, how you folks have adapted to, you know, the pandemic and the innovative things you've done over there. We're definitely going to go through some famous moments in history and also kind of the future. But maybe to start off, you know, Paul, it kind of always feels weird for me to, call you that, right? Maybe, you know, could you just tell people, because I think everybody here, you know, knows you as the game, you know, the cerebral assassin. We've seen you with NXT. But talk to us about just how you got into, you know, the business, from watching Chief Strongbow, you know, as a kid, to Killer Kowalski. How did you get into the business?
Oh man, you know, I think like so many people that get into something like the WWE, or, you know, you fall in love with something as a kid, and my dad, my grandfather watched it. And, you know, I can remember, as you said, we've talked about this before. I can remember being a kid, like, I don't know, 5, 6 years old, and my dad putting on the TV and distinctly remembering it be Chief Jay Strongbow, seeing it and watching professional wrestling for the first time, and like just sitting on my dad's lap and just watching it and thinking like, wow, this is the greatest thing ever. And I was just hooked, you know, like you were when you were a kid, Sriram, and you just become engrossed in it. And to me, to this day, it's still the greatest form of entertainment, because you can tell such amazing stories. It's not overly serious. It's designed to be fun and designed to be entertaining. And in some moments it is serious. In some moments we can make you cry. We make you angry. We make you hate people. We make you love them. We make you laugh. We can create every emotion. And then, you know, I also believe that we bring people together, because most everybody that has a story about loving this business starts with, well, my dad watched it, or my grandfather, or my grandmother, or, you know, my mom, or my sister and my brother. And it's families together. It's then their friends that they met through their life, because they went to, you know, a WWE event and they met these other people, and they've created lifelong friendships, or people that they've met online through it. It just brings people together worldwide. And I love that form of entertainment. So to me, growing up as a kid, I don't know. There was a certain point in time where I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. And, you know, but then how do you go about doing it? And that was the challenge. And getting trained by Killer Kowalski was, you know, me struggling to find somebody that would train me. At that time, it wasn't easy. And, you know, just like anybody else that goes after their dream, like that, I just worked hard and was not willing to take no, and just went out there and worked very, very hard at it. You know, I heard it said years ago, and I've stolen this phrase. There's dreams and there's goals. And if you want to succeed, you have to turn your dream into a goal, and you have to make it something that you're willing to work for. So to me, I had a dream, and then I turned that into a goal and just worked hard after it. And went after it and just kept going until I got there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great story.
If you hear grunting, that's not me thinking. That's our dog who just brought a toy over and is like our 200-pound Mastiff that's like breathing into the phone. Sorry.
Yeah. By the way, but Paul, that was an amazing story. I just don't know what you meant by telling stories that implies that this is not real. So I don't know what you mean by that part. So yeah, you don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know, the reality of it. Sriram, I have a question for you now that we're going at it, because like I know that you're friends with Elon, and this came to me the other day. Because I use this phrase all the time when we're doing stuff at TV and we're putting together stories and creative and doing all this stuff. And there'll be a point where it gets very confusing, and I'll look at everybody and I'll go, guys, this isn't rocket science. Like, let's just figure this out, right? What does Elon say when he's at work?
Guys, this isn't the WrestleMania main event. How hard can
Yeah,
it be?
that's right. That's
maybe
right.
it's not like this isn't WWE. Let's figure this out. For God's sakes, it's just rocket science.
I have a Elon question for you later, Paul. Trust me, I have a fun question for you. I mean, I've been talking to him. I think I can get him into. I think I can get him into WWE. But we'll get to that in later.
That
Yeah,
me, you, and Elon Zuckerberg tag team match is pretty solid, I believe.
Yeah.
I got money on me and you, Sriram. Zuckerberg doesn't stand a chance.
Oh my God.
Oh gosh.
think,
That'd be an amazing stable. Like we should come. Like, that'd be an amazing stable right there.
Yeah. Well, hey, and listen, we're going over it because I know the guy that writes the storylines. So.
Steph, tell us your story. Like you grew up in the business. This is like your family and just upbringing. I think tell everyone here who've been listening on like how it was growing up into this wrestling family, as well as like doing what you're doing now, and how did it get there?
Okay, I'll try to tell that a little succinctly. I did grow up in WWE. So in my life, I was, surrounded by all of these larger than life personalities. It was not unusual for Andre the Giant to show up at our house, or for, I remember Mr. T and Hulk Hogan came over for dinner right around WrestleMania 1. And my mom actually was so upset because my dad surprised her and said that they were coming over for dinner and that she had to cook and she had to make liver for Mr. T, which apparently she hates cooking. So, that kind of thing was just a regular, production shoots. Our house was always used for all of the production shoots that we did, for television or still photo. And it was like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous with Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, was shot at our house with our dog. And, but as a result, I realized that I was just really learning so much because I've always loved our business. I've always loved, wrestling and watching it and, hearing also, I would sit by the pool. My dad would sit and he what's called book the shows, which in essence is writing the shows, but you're booking matches, who's facing whom and that kind of thing. And then the storylines support that. And I would sit by the pool and listen to him book the shows. And he would sit with Bruce Pritchard and Pat Patterson. And, I just tried to take in as much as I possibly could. And it wasn't until I actually got into the business that I realized how much I had learned, all of that time. And when I first started, I actually first started as a receptionist. When I was in high school, I'd worked the switchboard, and that was, before technology was advanced enough and there was no real operating system. And I still remember people's extensions. So that's how I really started. And then once I was in high school and then graduated college, I interned in basically every different department in the company. Ultimately, after I graduated, I wound up in sales and ultimately the writing team, and then took over the writing team. Ultimately went on to manage and run our live events, talent relations, talent brand management, digital. Then I became the first ever chief brand officer for WWE. And it's just such a privilege, to represent this brand, this family, like Paul said. And it's, we have our whole story, of course, which is.
Yeah. I was going to say, and then somewhere in there, she met me and all went downhill.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get into the details of that because I saw that play out partially on TV. We're going to get into that.
Okay. But, it really is it's such a privilege to represent this brand and everything that we do. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I've grown up with our fans. Some of them I really have actually known since I was little. I am a fan, and I know what it means to be a fan of this brand, of this product, of what we get to do and how we do touch people's lives. And to be able to work alongside Paul and share this passion that we love so much, and to see the impact that you do have on people's lives. When I was growing up, people would ask all the time to take pictures with my dad, or sign autographs. There wasn't cell phones back then. And they would say, thank you. Thank you for the years of entertainment. thank you for generations of programming. I watched when I was a kid, and now I'm watching with my kids. And now people are saying that to me and Paul. And it's just, and also, there are so many kids. We have nearly 40-year relationship with Make-A-Wish Foundation. And when you have the honor of seeing these kids and somehow being a part of their lives, and some of them are very sick, and to be a part of a product that can help those kids forget what they're going through, even if it's just for a couple of hours, and not just them, but their parents, and to be able to provide that for them, that's just, it really is. It's an honor and a privilege. And that's the brand that I get to represent as Chief Brand Officer and that I grew up in.
Thank you. And I mean, as one of those fans who's kind of grown up, I have to say it's been such a privilege to get to know, Paul and Stephanie. And one of the amazing things is, I think for all of us who maybe just seen their on-screen personas over the years, through The Authority and all the other things, they're such an incredibly adorable, cute couple. And I actually want to go back in time because your story of how you got together is super interesting. I saw part of it on TV because you might be the first couple where one of you got kidnapped, got married, got divorced on TV before in your life. Could you talk us what happened?
Well, yeah, that's
Can you
why
tell
our
us what happened
relationship-
there?
Yeah, that's why our relationship worked so well, because we had a dry run on TV. We got the whole marriage, divorce, all of it out on, out of the way on TV, and then now it's just happily married ever since. Yeah, when you, it's interesting when we first started playing those roles on TV of, like the wedding angle, and getting kidnapped by me, and the whole thing, and the drive-through wedding chapel. We didn't really know each other. We'd only met a couple of times, so it was a really interesting, moment in time of where it would go, but not knowing that at the time. Just kind of being around each other, and then over time working together every day, and then not realizing it, but you're just kind of falling in love on the side, and the whole thing is taking place. It's a very, very unique story, to say the least.
Yeah, I think for me, at least my context with WWE, for me, it's not like Sriram, where he literally grew up with this. This is like a part of his identity and childhood and upbringing and everything. For me, it is like very different. Like when I was a kid, my cousins, they would all like wrestle and just beat up each other, and I was like, okay, whatever, you just put up with it. And then you grow up and you just like fall out of it. And then I think I met Sriram, and many years, I think 5 years, 6 years ago, this was like he kicked. I went in kicking and screaming into WrestleMania, like the actual live event. Like it was one thing to be in like to watch Monday Night Raw with Sriram and be like subjected to it, I would say. Pretty much every single week.
What?
And
You love it. I call you for all the fun segments.
I'm getting there.
The truth comes out.
No, listen. I'm getting to it, but it's like every Monday you'd be like, no, watch this, like watch this guy, but watch this guy, and I think it got to a point now where I watch it more than Sriram does, pretty much, because it's just gotten to this point where I love the storytelling. But I think 5 years ago or so, I went into the first WrestleMania, and this was like New Orleans, and I was like, why are we here? This is so humid, this is terrible, and all these crowds. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like getting dragged into this place. It's just mostly men, and I'm like, okay, this is weird. And I look around, and I'm like, there is this whole I'm not ruining anyone's surprise, this was like many years ago, but Undertaker's streak ends, like my first WrestleMania in person. And I look around, and it is just unbelievable. Like everyone's like, there are people who are just crying, and you just get like,
I was crying.
I was gonna say, and that was just Sriram.
Yes. No, like what really like pulled me into this was the power of just telling a really like a strong story, and just getting the audience so hooked. And for me, like pretty much since then to now, like I've just come to this point where it's like I learned so much from WWE on, like, all we've done in our life for both me and Shriram is tech, and we've built many technology products. We worked in other companies, and I learned so much from wrestling and WWE and just attending WrestleMania, and I don't think I've missed a single one since then for every year, mostly because for me this is like still the best place where thousands, like I think at that year like 80,000 people coming together in one place, and it's just unbelievable to be able to like hear, like watch that storytelling and have all of that in one place. And for somebody who at that time didn't know a whole lot on like what was actually going on and why should we care about these people. And so tell me about that on like how do you think about storytelling? Like you both are like so inside this, you're a part of the system. And so for somebody who's like kind of external and who's like you're trying to tell the story for the first time, how do you do it so well to the point where it's like so engaging, and it's just it's just great for me to like watch and listen and understand?
But I just want to clarify, I was crying not just for the Taker, but because Triple H lost earlier that night to Daniel Bryan. So, Paul, that was for you.
It led to a lot of tears in the arena that night. It really did for me. Yeah. Hey, I do. Before we answer that, I have a question too. So, like, I just want to know, like, and maybe this is a little personal, but like, was there ever a moment where you two are dating and you're kind of getting along and you're thinking like, hey, this guy's pretty cool, and then there's a moment you're together and you have an alone moment and you're thinking, hey, this might get really good, and then all of a sudden he's like, whoo, and now he's bending your legs and he's putting you in the figure 4 leg lock. Yep. And you're like, what is this guy doing? Anything kind of weird story like that?
Yeah, Paul, I'll just say that you don't want to know how I've used the phrase "it's time to play the game" in this household.
Oh my goodness!
But we'll keep this PG-13. PG-13.
Yeah.
So storytelling.
Yeah. Hey, the funny thing is, I don't know whose face is redder, Shriram. Probably yours. Steps is pretty red.
Mine's pretty red. Oh. But one thing I do want to mention before we get into the storytelling aspect, Artie, is WrestleMania. We have people who come from more than 60 countries and all 50 states, all different socioeconomic backgrounds, political beliefs, religious beliefs, etc. They come to share this passion, and it's like a big giant family reunion. And I'm really proud you're a part of it.
I know. And then I think that year after, or 2 years later, we went, this was like right down the street. It was in San Jose, and it was amazing. It was like our backyard. It was just really great to see like people come from everywhere, because, we know like the folks around here, and we know the folks who are from other places. And I think that year was like packed stadium. We showed up like 3 hours before the show, and it was already like, mostly getting full. So it was really awesome to see.
And the Terminator entrance from Triple H, the Terminator
entrance. True. That's true.
That's right. That was the coolest, that Terminator entrance.
Yeah.
I love that one. So,
wait, Shriram, let me just answer Artie's question about storytelling. So I think, for people who aren't indoctrinated in WWE and don't understand it, it really is no different than a great movie, play, sitcom, etc. It's protagonist versus antagonist with conflict resolution, right? Mm-hmm. Only our conflicts are settled inside a 20 by 20 foot ring with some of the greatest live action you can see in sports or entertainment. Mm-hmm. But really, it's about having different characters that are relatable and stories that are relatable. That's how you keep the audience engaged, because it's an emotional connection. And if you can make an emotional connection with someone, then they're gonna stay with you. They're gonna be invested. And one other thing I think about WWE is how important our fans are. Right? Our fans are a part of our show, but we empower them. They affect what happens. They affect what happens in the ring. They affect what happens in our stories. They affect who moves from NXT to Raw and SmackDown. They created the whole, women's evolution. They made it happen. Mm-hmm. So there's a connection there that you make, and nobody can really talk to storytelling, the specific aspects of it, better than Paul.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something for me. It's like, in tech and in building products, you get so sucked in like the day to day of it sometimes that you kind of like forget the context on like who this is for and what story you're really trying to tell. And for me, I think it's one thing which I wish more tech folks would like really watch and learn and understand. Like being in there in the stadium during
Mhm.
WrestleMania, there's really nothing like it.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I
just want to
think
say something. So I know a lot of there are a lot of people here who are fans, and it's blowing their minds to listen to Paul and Stephanie, and we're getting so many tweets. A lot of people who are maybe not as familiar with the product and who are in technology. I think one of the most inspiring things about the WWE, outside of my obvious fandom, is the connection they have with their fans and their customers. And for people in technology, something to think about is in the WWE, live in the moment, everyone knows how the fans are feeling and they react. And I've never seen an organization which is quicker to adapt in real time, both from the talent in the ring, the people, behind the scenes and storylines, just to your customers' feedback. And I think for us in technology, we look at dashboards, we look at metrics, we look at qualitative surveys. I don't see any technology company come close to being in tune with their customer base as much as the WWE is.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I think when technology is at its best is when it is generating an emotional connection,
Mhm.
right? That the products that allow you to connect, right?
Yeah.
Those like for as a parent, when I'm traveling, pre-pandemic or post-pandemic, however you want to look at it, and I'm not able to be at the school play or my daughter's game or whatever it is, and I can FaceTime in and they can see me and I can see them, and it's not the same as being there, but it's pretty darn close when you can't be. And it makes me like grateful for that technology. And so I think technology is at its best when it does improve people's lives and create an opportunity, at least for emotional connection.
Oh, absolutely. I want to get to this because I know that's been a core part of last year. By the way, I just want to say there are times in the tech world where I wish I could steal things that the WWE does. But there have been many times when I've signed a contract and I wish there was a table right next to that so I could just put them through the table. Many a time. I want to get to last year, right? Because, I mean, one of the things I tell Paul and Stephanie is, your business relies on the fans and relies on the fans being, live and you hear them and you react. And one day there's a global pandemic. And I remember this really well. It's during a SmackDown. The show, goes to the performance center and all of a sudden Paul is on commentary. And could you just talk us through how you adapted from that to how hard it has been without fans, to everything that you've done with the Thunderdome? Because I think you folks have been unique in how quickly and how well you have reacted to this unique situation of the last year.
Well, it's interesting, like you said. I mean, I remember it very specifically of everything was kind of going along normal, and it was 1 year ago. It was March 11th. We were doing an NXT event out of the Performance Center because our normal partner, Full Sail, had a conflict and we were there. SmackDown was supposed to be that Friday night in Detroit for Fox. And, things were starting to get crazy with the pandemic, and you were beginning to, all of a sudden there was rumors about, cities shutting down and them telling people to stay home, or sports leagues looking at their season and what was going to happen. And it went from us doing a show with a sold out crowd on a Wednesday to me talking to Vince after that show and him saying, we're rerouting the trucks. The NBA just shut down. We're rerouting the trucks from Detroit and sending them to Orlando. We're going to be live out of there on Friday because we had no other choice. And, there's, for us, like you mentioned, our fans are everything. If you're a sport, if you're a boxer or a combat sport, or even, in any sport, you almost try to tune the fans out to some degree. It's why when you go to an NBA game, there's people behind the basket waving the wiggly arm things and putting up giant pictures of people's heads and stuff, trying to distract the person throwing the free throw, because they're trying to tune all that out and you're trying to ruin it, right? Our connection is the exact opposite. Everything we do is geared towards that fan reaction. It's why we do what we do. So when they left, you can do all those other sports in front of nobody. For us, it was really difficult. And that first show we did, the one thing that Vince has sort of ingrained in everybody is you don't stop. There's a bump in the road, you keep going. You pivot, you turn, you move to what's next, you go where you have to go. And there was never a question of, are we going to put on a show? It was just when and how. And there was nobody there. It was a skeleton crew. We had just enough talent to actually be able to perform in the show. We didn't even have the commentary teams, so I did commentary. There was moments where I was running a camera.
You were really good at it, by the way. You were really good at it. I think Twitter probably told you.
A lot of different skills.
Time to play the game.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's going to be a thing now.
Yeah. But, you just move forward and do what you do. And then we were in the Performance Center for a while, but it didn't have the same, without the fans, the spectacle wasn't the same. So, we adapted and built the Thunderdome and the Capitol Wrestling Center and put virtual fans, thousands of them, up on video boards all around the arena in real time with real, you can hear their reactions. And, just a fascinating pivot of a way where there's a will, there's a way. And that moment in time created a necessity for us to go in a different direction. And, is it perfect? Would I rather have 10,000 people in a stadium, in an arena, or 70,000 in a stadium? Without a doubt. But we're where we need to be. And technology, as you spoke about earlier, man, that's what allows us to do it. Fans come in by the droves to be a part, to watch it on their screen and be on the screen for everybody else that's watching on TV to see them watching and be a part of it. And it's amazing. It's that connectivity with WWE and all those fans and their ability to talk to each other on all the social media platforms and everything. It's really what's gluing this all together, and people together while we're in this situation.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that leads me to this thing that I've always wanted to ask on, for WWE, like for me, from like an external standpoint, I look at it as you guys are like some of the people who like pioneered a few things, which was not the norm back then. Like you've always been one step ahead, a little bit ahead of the curve. For example, when pay-per-view first launched on WWE, it was not a thing. It was not super widely adopted, well known. And it was kind of a risky move, and you went ahead and you did it then. With what you've done with respect to entertainment and reacting to COVID and the pandemic, and being able to still go through with having wrestling shows across like every week and being able to do it. And you like, I think WWE started that first, and then a lot of the other sporting folks like started taking the cue and like building that on. I think you said something like you do whatever it takes and you kind of roll with it and make it happen. I think for me that is super interesting as somebody who's like kind of outside the system, because what about the company that you are in and the culture of WWE like sets that up and makes that happen with respect to just being one step ahead, being ahead of the curve. And this is not even about like the pandemic or things like that. It's really about like just all along from what I've noticed, whether it is like pay-per-view stuff or even like back then, like, the amount of work that goes into coordinating 80,000 people coming together, like it's a logistical challenge. You've just been able to do very complex, scalable things in like a very seamless way. What about the culture that makes it happen?
Well, you said two things, Artie, that really resonated with me. One is to always be slightly ahead of the curve. That's actually a philosophy, a business philosophy that my father has taught me my whole life. You never want to be so far ahead that people don't get it. You certainly never want to be behind. You want to be slightly ahead. But the reason why we were able to do it is because we were always fan first. Right. It's always about our fans first. When, my father's actually credited by some as pioneering pay-per-view with WrestleMania, because he wanted to find a way to bring our product into our fans' homes, those who couldn't be live in the arena or live in the stadium. So he was always trying to think of how could he do that. And also WWE Network, we were one of the first OTT services to launch 7 years ago. Actually, 7 years ago, maybe today, the 20th. Yesterday, the 24th. we were one of the first to launch an OTT service. Again, we had done research and found that our fans were 5 times more likely to consume online video than at that time the American norm. And so we realized we had an opportunity. And there were a lot of key learnings, of course, because you always have to be willing to test and learn and listen to your audience. But I think that what enables us to do it is really all about that fan experience. Think about your consumers. You hear people say, Jeff Bezos says all the time, you have to be customer obsessed. Well, however you look at it, if you're obsessed, you put them first. It's all about your fans and your consumers.
By the way, that Bezos line sounds great, but I'm not sure it's going to sound good in a promo if it's in a go home promo.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people say it.
He needs a better promo.
Way better. Like, hey, I got 2 words for you. And then you just go off on
All right, you know what? I think we should really get into it. So I want to, there's been so many questions which all the fans have been wanting to, me to ask you folks. And, one of the things is, Paul, the story of NXT. So for folks who are not familiar, WWE has, 2, brands and shows which have been on for many, many years. One is Raw, which has been on for, over like 30 years, I think, or 25 years at this point. SmackDown, which has been on for a very, very long time. But Paul has kind of helped create this third brand, NXT, which, Paul, what's kind of fascinated me is how, in a very short period of time, you've found such an enthusiastic fan base, which kind of connects to NXT in maybe a different way than with like Raw and SmackDown. So it's kind of like an indie band, and you kind of see the indie band going and becoming big. So what do you think is the magic and, behind NXT?
Well, I think it comes from the fan side first. It started as a necessity, right? As the success of WWE grew, it began to sort of, lose where other talent were coming from and where they were learning and how they were being taught. You could see it sort of kind of becoming a place where, how is the future going to exist? And as we spoke about it, Vince and I spoke about it, we talked about, building out a system that could, much like a farm system, or really, I always looked at it was like building college football. If the NFL has it made because college football does it all for them, and then they just draft all the talent. But if you could sort of do that on your own, create college football, which is a slightly different version of football. Some people like it more. Some people like the NFL more. But it's slightly different, but it's helping to build the base for the future of the brand. And if you do it well, love it. And they're going to love to see people's journey of how they're, in that attempt to make it and get to that next level. People love to see, look like if you listen to a band in your neighborhood growing up and then they make it to be the biggest band in the world, you feel connected to them long before everybody else. And that makes it a strong connection for you. So we started that, but it was started out as a way for talent to learn and just take it to another level and get them rolling as a feeder system. And it blew up. The second we started doing it, people loved the product. They loved, as Steph said, being involved in the process of, cheering on people that they had never seen before and almost being invested in their success of getting to that next level, whatever that is. And it blew up, and it went from being this little tiny thing that was just kind of, you could catch on the internet in clips, to becoming the first live show that we did on the WWE Network on our OTT service when we launched it, to selling out Barclays Center.
Mm-hmm.
When Vince first said to me, hey, it was, 3 or 4 months early before SummerSlam, he said, what do you think about taking your NXT thing and running Barclays Center? And I was like, yeah, absolutely not. That place is huge. And he talked me into it. And then he was like, I think you're underestimating it. And we put it on sale and it sold out in a few minutes, and it just went crazy and it exploded. And now it's our third brand, and it's on USA Network every Wednesday night. And for some people, it's they're just as passionate about NXT as they are Raw and
Yep.
SmackDown, you know, and it really comes down to the talent that are on it and their ability and desire. And I say sometimes that like the magic sauce to it a little bit is it's, you know, when you watch college football, it's still sometimes kids that are playing just for the love of the game and they're still trying to make it. And you feel that passion and you feel that desire and grind in them still. Sometimes when you make it, it becomes a job and now it's a business and it's different. Sometimes when you watch NXT, you can still feel that young energy of people that are just putting it all on the line to try to make it because it hasn't become a job yet, you know?
Yeah, I think, you know, what's been amazing is, you know, like all the famous names from the last few years, like Finn Balor, Ricochet, Aleister Black, now Keith Lee, who have kind of moved on from NXT and called up and now done amazing things on the main roster. And I think if you look at like folks like Rhea Ripley, Adam Cole, you know, Ciampa and Gargano are going to be probably around forever. Let me ask you one question. Who do you think, you know, is maybe doesn't get as much attention and hype on NXT, but you think someday will be headlining WrestleMania?
Oh boy. Yeah.
This is going to be a tough interview, Paul. Tough interview.
I think it's funny. I think there are a lot of talent that when you look at them as they're just getting rolling, like there are people like I've been saying it for a while now, and she's about to start on Raw, but Rhea Ripley is, you know, she is that next generation star to me that is just going to be headlining WrestleMania. I think you see some of the talent that have moved up now, whether it's a Matt Riddle or people like that. But then I think there are also talent that didn't really do this for very long, or that we started from, they never stepped foot in the ring before. And that's what people don't realize. It's funny, once they make it, they think, you know, oh, well, they've been around for a long time. Like Braun Strowman, when I first met Braun Strowman, he had never been in a ring a day in his life. When I first met Bianca Belair, who is another woman that is just going to...
By the way, she's probably the most insane athlete I think I see in pretty much any sport right now.
Yeah.
From just like, it's just amazing.
Yeah, incredible, right? But when I first met her, never stepped through the ropes a day in her life. Just wasn't even you know, she was an amazing athlete doing amazing things in other, you know, crossing track and field and CrossFit and all different things that she was doing, but had never stepped in the ring before. And when you see her now, it's hard to imagine her doing anything else. There are so many talent like that I think are next level stars that when you look at 80% of the Raw and SmackDown roster now came out of NXT. But when you look at the future, even further down the line, there are, you know, there are stars right now that are people that are just getting going, that never did this, that a few years from now are probably going to be household names. Xia Li would come to mind. You know,
again, by the
like
way, also, she's amazing talent. And for folks who haven't seen this, go watch, if you haven't seen her on NXT, go watch this video of Sheamus and her working out. Her abilities is amazing.
Yeah. So, you know, there's so many of them, and it's hard for me to even say that. And then for the talent that are on NXT, for every talent that's on NXT, there's 2 or 3 more that are in our performance center in Orlando, Florida training, or in our performance center in London training, that are coming up behind them that you've not even heard of yet. And a year or 2 from now will be stars on NXT, and a few years after that are going to be headlining WrestleMania. It's deep now. And that's really, with this past week, it's funny, we just had the largest class we've ever brought in to the performance center of athletes, and the largest class of women that we've ever had, period, come into the performance center. And I was just speaking to them 2 days ago. They were having rookie orientation, and I walked in there to say hello to everybody and welcome them. And man, I was blown away by some of the athletes that are in there, just being in the same room with them. It's the future's bright.
It's really amazing. Okay, I think this brings me to something else. I think what I want to do is take you through a bunch of classic moments. And I think a lot of people kind of ask you about some of these moments, but some I think are the ones that Aarti and I have personally connected with. You mentioned the women in WWE. Stephanie, you know, one of the things I think you've been a real part of is the women's revolution and really changing the landscape of women in WWE and professional wrestling and sports entertainment. Can I say professional wrestling or should I say sports entertainment? Like, I don't know the rules here. Um, uh, but
Whichever you want.
I love it. I love it. And you know, I think you've been such a big part of that, and bringing this generation of Charlotte Flair and like Becky Lynch and everyone else that has come up. But the moment I want to talk to you about is Aarti and I were at WrestleMania a couple of years ago, and it was not the main event. It was just a kind of a mid-card match, but I think it was a match that stole the night, and that was you two tag teaming against Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey. Could you talk to us about that moment? Because it was by far the match of the night.
Awesome.
And I don't think it was expected the match, but it really stole the show. How was it to kind of be a part of that?
You're asking me my perspective on that one?
Yes.
So
Well, okay. Well, look, the match was amazing, except that, look, I mean, like, she got an accidental submission hold on you, Stephanie. It was just an accident, and she cheated, and there was Paul was kind of distracted by Kurt. It was a mess. So, yeah, let's forget the ending.
I'm gonna have to remind Steph of some of the match because I think Ronda hit her a few times in there a little too hard. She's got shady memories.
Paul, I would say if I can fanboy just a little bit, one of my favorite moments from the match is I think by the way, I think that was like Ronda's first match in WWE, and Stephanie was just amazing in handling that. But Paul, I think you had my favorite moment was when you went up against Ronda and then she lifted you up. I think that's probably my favorite moment of the match.
Yeah, that whole thing was surreal in the fact that it's Ronda Rousey, household name, one of the biggest stars in combat.
First ever women's UFC champion, first ever female to be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, first ever American to medal in judoka in the Olympics. So I happen to know these things.
So just amazing opportunity, and we're in there with it's Ronda, and then Kurt is in there, and I have so much history with Kurt as a performer, and just as a friend, and then of course Steph, we all did angles together with Steph years ago, and then Steph's in there, so this is the first time that Steph and I are wrestling together at WrestleMania. Like, this is Steph's WrestleMania in-ring debut, and we're wrestling together it was just so cool on so many levels. And then you're just trying to, all of us were really just trying to make sure that Ronda had the best first match and launch into WWE that she could possibly have, because, we were trying to make her an even bigger star. And Ronda wanted to use that platform to show women that they could do anything and everything else. So it was just, there was so much of a focus there. And then, you got to look at it and go, hats off to Steph, because while I went toe to toe with Ronda and squared off with her, Steph's got to do most of the work with Ronda Rousey, who's, one of the baddest women on the planet, and, pulling her punches isn't necessarily her forte. So Steph just was taking a beating, and I felt bad for her. And the whole training sequences as we were moving up to WrestleMania and we're training with Ronda, and Steph was just getting the tar beat out of her on a regular basis.
I went back and watched them.
It's like Kurt, an Olympic gold medalist. Ronda's a medalist. You have Paul, who's the 14-time champion. All professional athletes, and me.
I went back and rewatched the match last night to prepare for this, and I can just hear the pop of the crowd when Ronda puts Paul in the armbar. It's crazy. Okay, Paul. This is actually probably, when people ask me about what should be the first match or thing I should watch if I'm not a fan, or maybe the moment which had the most emotional impact on me over my 20 years of watching WWE, the moment I talk about is the fourth match in the series between Shawn, you, and Taker. And I think there are two moments from your second match with Taker which really, I can think of, I can even feel the emotions thinking about it now. One is when, Taker kicks out of the Sweet Chin Music pedigree combo, which is by far, I think, the closest pinfall combination of all time. And the second moment is, I have to say, when you folks were standing at the top of the ramp and looked up, and it felt like a piece of my childhood had ended, but I was happy, and it felt like it was just a deep emotional. How was it to live through that? Because I know that meant a lot for you, and it's probably on top of everyone's list of most amazing WrestleMania moments of all time.
Yeah, I think for me, by far, other than, the moment of standing on the ring apron and both Steph and I doing the water spit in the Ronda match or things like that. The moment for me, Shawn and Taker standing at the top of that ramp after that was over, that was a 4-year sort of storyline that we kind of talked about and put together. And man, what if we could do this? Mm-hmm. And to then get to see that all play out in WWE, nothing 4 years ever, you can't talk about anything and go, hey, 4 years from now, and it be anywhere close to the same, because it's live and stuff changes minute by minute. And, for that to all play out, for it to be three guys that, Shawn, my best friend, he and Taker have had their ups and downs over the years. Taker and I just had a great friendship and such a mutual respect for each other. I think for so many years, he was a mentor to me and meant so much to my career. And I looked up to him, and almost in a lot of ways, Taker's sort of his persona behind the scenes, his locker room leadership was something that I always admired and tried to emulate. So to get to a point this late in our careers where we're winding down, but we're having probably some of the greatest matches the three of us have ever had over that 4-match series. It's hard to even explain. While it was emotional for everybody else, that moment at the top of the ramp, I made a plaque, kind of a tribute thing, that I took one of Taker's gloves. I put my wrist tape and piece of Shawn's shirt, and I made it's a picture of the three of us standing at the top of that ramp. And I put it together in like a big poster size plaque. And all three of us have one it's in a special frame and everything that we had designed. And, all three of us have one, and we all have it prominently placed, interesting in either our gyms or our offices or wherever. All of us do. It's like we've all talked about. It's one of the most meaningful moments of our careers. And there's a moment where that moment when we're standing at the top of the ramp where, I don't care how you look at it, it's as real as it can possibly get for us in that moment.
I think it's truly one of those ones that everyone looks at, and I didn't think about it, it just gets emotional because it's all three of you, the characters, and you have meant so much to so many people. And seeing that moment, even now, when I'm feeling down, I go rewatch that match. It just means something, special. Okay, so here's something, I kind of wanted to ask, both of you, and maybe Paul. I think a lot of people are curious about. One of the things I think is really impressive to me is how you package a character and how you create amazing moments. So here's a simple question. What goes into an amazing entrance?
Boy, to me, it's less about saying this is an amazing entrance. It's about creating a moment that connects with the emotion. So I think you can have an entrance that's a bunch of lights and a bunch of pyro, and you're like, that's cool. But I think when it connects you to the emotion, and really that's what I'm whenever I'm trying to look at putting one together, whether it's, the year that I came out on the throne with the girls and was like the ultimate king and came out with Daniel Bryan, like, to me, it told that story, right? I'm coming out as the ultimate authority figure and king and all this stuff in this unbelievably over-the-top presentation, only to come out to plain old Daniel Bryan doing the yes chant and then him beating me. It all comes down to those emotions and those things. When we're going through and creating the day-to-day, the week-to-week character entrance for somebody, I try to picture a movie scene, and what am I trying to, if this is the first time I see this character in a movie scene, how am I trying to make you feel? And that's really what I'm trying to get there. It's not the moment or the image, it's more the feel. If it makes you feel something, then you get it. It connects you to it. And then from every time that you'll hear that music and every time that you'll see that person and every time that you'll see that entrance, you feel that same feeling, and it's what connects you to it.
I'm very jealous. I think, and by the way, Paul, I would say at NXT, you've created some amazing entrances. I think about like Damian Priest or Finn Balor, who I think is probably one of the best entrances of like recent years. He is amazing. And by the way, I'm very jealous. I wish all of us in business and technology could have an entrance. I want to go into a Zoom meeting. I want my music to hit. Right?
That's the only reason you've done this show, is so you could have your own entrance music.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know that. You know me. You know that's true.
If you want to put together an entrance video, let me know. I'll help you out.
Well, look, I told Vince when I met him, next time you folks are having a Punjabi prison match and need a tall Indian dude, I'm your guy. Yeah. You don't need to call giant Kali. I'm your guy. I'm nearby. I can just fly over. I'll be the tall Indian guy. I can even jump off, the cage like one of the Singh brothers. Okay, so I want to, talk about the future, right? For folks who don't know, WWE has its Super Bowl, one of the largest entertainments, one of the largest events in media and entertainment, WrestleMania, which happens in April. And this year is very unique, right? Because of the way it's happening, right? Kind of as the pandemic is recovering, going to do a 2-day event. Stephanie, could you just talk to us about just the road to WrestleMania and, what this year's WrestleMania is going to look like?
Sure. Well, the road to WrestleMania really started at the Royal Rumble. And that's, strategic, of course, in our storytelling. It's, we have we still call them pay-per-view events, though they've become sort of streaming specials, but we have, a minimum of one a month that's leading you ultimately to WrestleMania. And this year's WrestleMania is going to be 2 days, April 10th and 11th, from Raymond James Stadium. So we're actually really fortunate that we're following the Super Bowl, especially this year. So there's a lot of, key learnings from all of the different safety aspects and fan seating logistics and cashless and, touchless and everything else that we're doing there. But, it's all about the spectacle and bringing that spectacle back. And we are so excited because, we haven't announced anything yet. So, I'm not sure exactly what I should say or what I shouldn't say, but, we're planning on having fans in attendance. And, again, of course, working with the appropriate officials, in the local area in Tampa, and, to be able to have that to look forward to, for people to have something to get out of the house for, to be able to go see, to bring that family back together, even if it's a smaller family than we're used to having, it's going to be something really special. So, and again, it's normally a 1-day event. This is going to be a 2-day event. We need to commemorate both Hall of Fame classes that, the Hall of Fame last year wasn't able to be inducted formally. And, we're looking forward to doing that. So it's going to be all about spectacle. It's going to be all about storytelling. And our goal is absolutely 1,000% to over deliver on our fans' expectations.
I, for one, I'm so excited on many levels. I think you folks pulled off an amazing feat in last year's WrestleMania over 2 days. And this year, I'm so excited. For nothing else, I want to see Edge's entrance in a stadium with the pyro. Can't wait for that. Okay. So I want to quickly, we want to go over a few minutes. It's going to be like a Raw show, right? We're going to show up the logo, but we're going to have an overrun here, right? This is going to be just like WWE TV. So I want to talk a little bit about the future. What does the future mean for WWE? I mean, for Paul, you folks just did, you've obviously been interested in India. You've been expanding. I'm curious to hear more about that. For Stephanie, you folks are now on Peacock, which is amazing. So I'm pretty curious to hear about like what the future holds for WWE from your perspective.
Well, I'll just tee it up, and you started to talk about it, Sriram, but one of our key focuses is absolutely international. So looking to replicate what's been so successful here in the States, and we really started it in the UK with NXT UK, but with a local performance center, local talent, local content, local distribution, ultimately local CPG, really replicating what we do so well here locally. And, Paul has a whole vision for how he wants to roll it out.
We did it sort of as NXT rolled out here, then we opened a performance center in London and started an NXT UK brand there, where we have, probably we have 60-ish talent, maybe a little bit more on the ground in the UK training and working on that brand there that is picking up steam. The pandemic sort of kind of put a little bump in the road on that, but it's expanding greatly. We mentioned it earlier. We just did Superstar Spectacle for India, which was a special show that aired in India with our partners Sony there. And, it was sort of some of our WWE superstars, Rey Mysterio and AJ Styles and Finn Balor and different people like that, but they were wrestling against Indian stars that were Indian nationals that were trained in the U.S. at our performance center and have gotten good over the years. And it was a way to present them to the world, and it did phenomenal viewership in India, and the interest in it is great and very high. And the goal there is, again, to hopefully one day open a performance center there, to have talent training from all over India and building localized stars, just like any other sports league in those markets, whether that be India, the Middle East, Latin America, Japan, Australia, wherever we can do it. And you build those localized heroes and talent and superstars, and then eventually they're coming to the US, eventually they're making it to Raw, to SmackDown, eventually they're headlining WrestleMania in some global event. And while you're doing all that, hopefully they're competing, those nations and their brands are competing against each other in some type of World Cup event. The ability to replicate what we do globally in a massive and meaningful way, when you really break it down that way, to me, WWE is just nicking the surface of how big we will be.
I think that's so true. I mean, look, everybody from India grew up with the WWE. We had WWE backpacks. We grew up watching TV every single week, and it's such a huge part of culture over there. I can't wait for you folks to do this. Just so you know, I'm your guy. Make sure, give me a call if you need somebody.
No, 100%. First Punjabi prison match that we put on in India. You're in it.
Yeah, I'm your enhancement talent. I'll put anyone over anytime. Stephanie, I want to end on a note which I think maybe not a lot of people would, people in WWE who are familiar with it know and appreciate it, maybe outsiders don't know, is I think a lot of the work that you folks do around just amazing causes. And I think one particular kind of is really close to my heart. I think it's touched a lot of people. Could you just talk to us about Connor's Cure and all the work that, I think you and Paul especially have done? Because I think such an amazing story and kind of shows how WWE is kind of involved in philanthropic activities.
Yes. And before I do, I just want to say, in terms of the future of WWE, something I think will be important for your tech listeners and any partners out there that want to work with us. Interactivity is the future, right? So it's interactivity across all lines of business, including gaming, of course, CPG, everything. And I think ultimately it's about putting our brand, giving the opportunity for our consumers and fans, giving them the tools for them to then create their own worlds with our IP and different tools. So I think that there's huge opportunity there. It's a whole next gen play that we are absolutely focused on as a company. And, again, for any of your partners listening, they can get in touch with you, Sriram. You could put them in touch with me.
Oh, yes. And by the way, I just want to quote the famous Vince line, "They're always open for business."
That's right. But in terms of Connor's Cure, so Connor Mahalik, he was an 8-year-old WWE fan who Paul and I met after the Royal Rumble in Pittsburgh. And when I saw him, he, you could tell he was sick just from what he looked like, because he didn't have any hair on his head and he had a big scar running up the back of his neck and a lump on his forehead. But you would never know it from talking to him. I was introduced to him and he started to explain to me how he was wearing 3 different t-shirts. He was wearing his Daniel Bryan t-shirt because that was his favorite. And he had a Skylanders t-shirt on. And then Sheamus gave him his t-shirt as he came out of the ring. And he was so cute. And I asked him for a hug and he told me no. And I was like, what do you mean no? And he said, well, I give choke out hugs. And I said, oh, all right, buddy, try me. And he gave me this great big hug. And I swear I just fell in love with him instantly. And as I stood up, his dad told me that they had tickets to come to the next show in Pittsburgh in the summer. Royal Rumble happens in January, but that the doctors had said that Conor probably wouldn't make it. And it really just caught me. And I looked over at this little boy who's like shadow boxing now. And I couldn't believe that could be true. And I couldn't sleep that night. And Paul and I kept talking about, what could we do for him? What could we do for this little boy to keep him hanging on? Because oftentimes hope, really can keep you going. And we talked about inviting him to WrestleMania. It was actually the WrestleMania you were at, Artie. And Conor sat in the front row. And his hero, Daniel Bryan, ultimately won the WWE Championship. And Daniel Bryan went right out of the ring and right over to Conor after he won. And he said, you helped me do this. You keep fighting. And Conor, about 3 weeks later, lost his fight. And we decided that we really wanted to do something in his honor. And we started Conor's Cure, which is a fund, designed to find a cure for pediatric cancer. And we've partnered with the V Foundation. And we've raised nearly $4 million and helped over 500 families with things like parking vouchers, food vouchers, really unanticipated needs when your child goes into the hospital. There's just so much work that needs to be done in the pediatric cancer space. But that's something that obviously I'm very personally and professionally committed to. And it's Conor's a WWE fan, and it's something that our fans get behind every year during Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month in September. And it's something that all of us, just really believe in any way that we can help. And that's how we always look at things is how can we help? How can we give back? And that's just one of the ways that we do it.
Well, I don't even know how to follow that. First of all, just thank you, both of you, for, that story. I think kind of illustrates how, people see the WWE and they see this large, flashy entertainment company. But, I want to talk about that because I think there is such a human, compassionate side of both of you personally and the WWE, which is just amazing. So thank you for everything you do. Okay, I know we're out of time. I have one last question for Paul before I want to kind of wrap. First of all, everyone who listened in, thank you so much. It's probably the most fun show that I've ever done. You can probably hear it in my voice. It's like my childhood dream come true to talk to both of these folks. They're just so amazing, wonderful, nice, generous people, and also, kind of the Mount Rushmore of entertainment. So just been amazing fun. Thank you for all the tweets. There's so many tweets from people, just blown away to kind of hear the childhood icon just speaking to them. Just amazing tweets. So thank you for all the positive feedback and all the audience here. And mostly to Steph and Paul, thank you so much for everything that you've done, both on TV and off TV, for all the amazing moments, for just being an amazing and being for amazing friends. Just thank you. And I want to wrap by asking Paul, and we've kind of got the cute, cuddly Paul. And whenever we see, I think, Triple H on TV, he's sometimes even in a suit. And we know he's in a suit, he's a COO, and he's he's probably want to get into it. But every once in a while, when he means business, he's going to wear his black leather jacket and he's going to come out. And it's no longer Paul Levesque. It's the Destroyer, Triple H. So, Triple H, that Elon Musk has been on the show. He's probably listening somewhere. He probably doesn't respect you as much as he should. What do you have to say to that?
Sriram, you are just like a disturber. Like you just got a big spoon and you're stirring up the poo here, trying to make this a big thing between me and Elon Musk. He disrespected the business. Wow. But before I get into that, because I'm not even thinking about cutting a promo on Elon. I'm thinking about booking a Punjabi prison match with you against Elon for Elon disrespecting the business. But I would like to say that, one, it's hard to believe this has been an hour already. You guys are such a pleasure to talk to, and it's funny for anybody that's listening, having a conversation on the phone that we would normally have. And my wife is rolling her eyes at me because
that's exactly what I described to him that this would be. And he was, anyway.
So I'm getting the, I was right, eye roll, which I'm sure you've seen on TV many times.
Oh, yes. There's a viral clip, by the way. I don't know if you folks have seen it, about Stephanie and you during Access, which is Stephanie McMahon gets mad at Triple H. I'll send you a link. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
He was the one who was mad that day. Oh my God, was he mad that day?
I'm definitely stirring up trouble now. Moving along.
Yeah, I'm sure I wasn't mad. I'm very easygoing. But Sriram, we got to do this again. And then when next time we do it, I want you to tell me your WWE story, because you've told it to me before, and I really hadn't known it about you winning the contest and all that. But we'll get into that another time. But for now. Let me address Elon Musk, because I do feel like there's some type of disrespect going on here, because I don't know if he has a superiority complex, because, he's a rocket scientist, self-taught rocket scientist, right? Big deal. He's a guy that basically sort of revolutionized the electric car, all because he wanted to fly rockets to Mars. Big deal. Taught himself how to build cars, taught himself how to revolutionize the automotive industry, taught himself how to revolutionize space travel, comes up with reusable rockets, the whole thing. Then does that, goofs around on the internet, flips some things around, becomes the biggest billionaire, trillionaire, whatever he is in the world, the richest guy in the world, which, by the way, he couldn't maintain for long. I'm just want to say, I'm sure he will flip that around. But what I'm saying is, big deal. At this point, Elon, you have to ask yourself, all those incredible accomplishments, and believe me, they are cool. Who have you beaten? Who have you ever beat? Answer is nobody. So if you want to disrespect our business, that's one thing. I will, anytime, any place, anywhere, Elon Musk, if you've got the guts, if you have what it takes to do this, I will set up a fight between you and Sriram any moment.
What?
And after that fight is over, then you and I will talk, Elon, about what I really want to talk to you about, which is taking one of your rockets, launching it from Florida, going up into space, heading to Mars with a team from the Performance Center, where we then put on the largest spectacle the universe has ever seen, WrestleMania Mars. Let's talk about it. You're a big thinker. Let's do it. I think we can get this done. Just name the time and the place. Maybe, just saying maybe, Sriram could arrange it. Maybe Steph, myself, Elon, we get on Clubhouse. We have a conversation about this. We make this happen.
Oh, my gosh. Wow. Okay. That's a swerve right there. That was a swerve. Wow.
And Sriram, if you're not down with that, I've got 2 words for you.
This is a PG-13 show, so we can't say those words. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. Well, to find out whether I accept Elon's challenge, or Elon accepts the challenge that Triple H just laid down, there's only a few things you can do. Tune into Raw every Monday night on the USA Network, or on Friday Night SmackDown. I don't know which roster we are part of, but one of the shows, or even better, we might show up on NXT, or we may show up on their upcoming pay-per-view, Fastlane, or the granddaddy of them all, the biggest spectacle for now, then, and forever, WrestleMania. And I want to say, Paul, Stephanie, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. And we have a tradition. If you have a tradition here, by the way, every time we do the show, we pick a song that kind of matches the guest and the content that we have done. And for today's song, I think that it's for Elon, who's probably listening in and kind of shaking in his rocket boots or whatever it is he wears. I think the question for Elon is, are you ready? Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Steph.
Thank you very
Thank
much. That was a
you.
lot of fun.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.